We are now. Hey. Welcome back to another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. I'm Ryan, as always, with my man Wally. We're going to get started tonight by reminding you to catch us on your favorite podcast app. And it seems like we got all of the bugs worked out. We're back live on Twitter, X. We are back live on YouTube. So find us on your favorite way to catch the podcast. And as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. So tonight, we're going to wrap up a Tigers series that started with a 5-homer punch to the face. Not a great start to this series, but ended with two of the Astros' more encouraging wins, I think, potentially of the season to perform and kind of do a little back-to-back games like they did, including a Hunter Brown return to the mound, Yainer Diaz coming back, homecoming for Framber Valdez, kind of an emotional return here to Houston, but in a different uniform. Peter Lambert continuing to stabilize the rotation. This guy, he's a very real deal. On top of that, we're going to talk about a very real but demanding path for this team to reach 500 by July 1st. Wally, this is a team that at one point was 11 games under 500, and they've gone 15-10 in their last 25 games. That is a 600 clip. That's a 97-game pace. Can they keep it up? What does this Detroit series tell us about these potential next 12 to 15 games, let's say, about the Astros?
You know, when I look at them, is they can't really look too far ahead. They've got to look at the next series. They've got a series coming up against Cleveland. They've got a tough series coming up. They get Tanner Bybee. They get Joey Cantillo and Slade Ciccone. They've got two of those pitchers have been pitching well. Bybee's a good pitcher. He hadn't been that great this year. 4 of his last starts have been fine. He had one blow-up where he gave up 7 innings. But really, you can't worry too much about what's happening at the end of July, because if you worry about what's happening at the end of July, you'll be looking at guys who are being traded. What they've done over the last week, for example, just put a few numbers together. A week ago, they were 5.5 out. Now they're 4 out. That highlights some of the things that we've said before, which says that making up more than a game a week, and we come back to the Astros a couple of years did it against Seattle. They made up like 10 games in 3 weeks. Well, they got extremely hot, and the Mariners got extremely cold at the same time.
Yep.
That just never happens. I think the goal for the Astros is to make up a game a week, and that's what they've done. They've made up a game against the Rangers. They've made up a game against the A's. They've made up a game against the Mariners. And who cares about the Angels? If they're worried about the Angels, then they're worried about what their jobs are going to be next year.
Yeah, for sure. I think this series kind of had it all. It had good pitching. It had horrible pitching. You sent me a text about Kaiwei Tung now, I guess, after the whole thing that they talked about on the broadcast there. It's not Tang, it's Tung. He wasn't good. I mean, he struck out 9, but man, that was not good, consistent pitching. It's just one of those strange outings where strikeouts suggest maybe some dominance. But the damage says otherwise. I mean, this guy was just throwing beach balls up there.
What I told you is tongue equals dung. And that's about how he was. Anyway,
Man,
he's one of these guys that's a nice story. If you're worried about these nice stories that are going to make your team, then you're in trouble. Now we
yeah,
do have some nice stories, but this nice story called Peter Lambert has been really really good. When you
yeah,
look at a guy like Lambert, he was just solid. I had somebody ask me, I didn't get to watch the game. I said, "Well, what did he do?" Well, he threw strikes, and we went out of the strike zone. He had established the strike zone, and so they chased. Um, he's been, you know, he's a great story about some guys who try to. You hear about guys who say, "Well, they don't make the team." They get all upset. They go into a situation that's not a good situation, and they go down the tank. Peter Lambert knows what it's like to be in a bad situation because he was with
yep,
Colorado. They
yep,
give Dana credit, or whoever it was that convinced him to stick with the team. He's 6-4 with a 3.23. He's got a 111 whip. You get a whip under 115, you're pretty good. And he's been just what the Astros have needed. He's been steady. He hadn't been anything, super flashy, but every time he's gone out, he's been competitive, and that's something that a lot of these Astros pitchers cannot say.
yeah. I mean, I think out of the no, aside from the no hitter, this may have been one of the best pitching performances, really, of the season. It had to have been for me at least a top 5 or 6 because I
Yeah,
mean, when you look at his line, 7 innings, only allowing 2 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts, and allowing that 1 run. He didn't give the Astros the innings, which this is something that we've been asking our pitching to do for a while is give us innings. And after a first night of the series in Kaiway, not giving us innings, Hunter Brown kind of giving us okay innings, but Peter Lambert going out there and throwing 7 and handing this game over in the way that he did. I think that it's just it's
we need
just
to do something
indicative.
about we need to do something about our Asian pitchers. They're just not holding up their
It's
end
not
of the
worked out
bargain.
well for this team. I don't know, man.
you, you,
For
you,
for
talk, you
for
talked
me, when
about.
Javier returns, this is not a question of Javier versus Lambert, which I see a lot of
Oh
people
no.
kind of pushing around out there. I think it's a dumb question to ask because I think Kaiwei Tang is Tung is the very obvious out of the rotation
Sure he is.
pitcher.
Sure he is. When you talked about Hunter a little bit, and for his first time out, Hunter was fine. He threw 92 pitches, 53 strikes. One of the things that we've seen with Hunter last year, he's a high 50s, low 60s% strike thrower. He gets
Yep.
away, he does it with stuff. Um, and for the first time out, he was just fine. He threw 16 pitches an inning. Compare that with Lambert. Look under the hood a little bit. Lambert threw 89 pitches in 7 innings. That's 12.7 pitches an inning, and he threw over 2/3 strikes, a whip of
Yep.
0.29. That's winning stuff.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think what was encouraging for me with Hunter's outing was of course he had plenty of rehab and it's a shoulder issue, right? And we've talked about kind of how
Yeah.
questionable the shoulder issue is. Fastball topping out at 97.5. His four seam average for the night was 95.9. That's encouraging coming back from a shoulder injury like that. He, you
Hmm.
know, he looked like he was the top of the rotation guy coming back to reclaim his job. Retired 10 of his final 13 hitters.
Yeah. He was
And
fine. He gave him a
so
chance to
yeah,
win.
he was great. I think that that's exactly what was needed. He looked comfortable. He adjusted. He emptied the tank at 92 pitches and gave this team an opportunity to win.
And I thought Joe pulled him at the right time.
Yeah, I wasn't too upset with pulling him where he did.
When you looked at when he was pulling him, he was losing command, and he's bouncing pitches. I mean, he's still throwing hard, but it wasn't like he was throwing any sort of strikes. I would have been interested to see. if they would have sent Lambert out for another inning.
Yeah.
He only had 89 pitches. You could have pushed him to 100.
You probably could
I
have
can't
very
recall. I can't recall what the bullpen situation was like, but still they only used 3 pitches. Hader gave up his first run.
Yep.
Big deal.
Yep.
Hader's been
I think
nails.
if Hunter Brown is back in this form, what we're going to talk about here shortly about the paths of this team getting back to 500, I think it's going to be pivotal.
Yeah. Only one thing I would say about this, the only thing I would say about this series that was a little bit bothersome was we saw at the bats, it was a little of what we saw last year. They threw the strikeouts weren't that much of a problem. It's 22% strikeouts for the series, 22 and 99 at bats, not PAs, but at bats. Total PAs, it was 108 PAs. So you're talking, about 19%. They didn't score runs. They were very poor with runners in scoring position, 4 for 24. Half of their runs came when they were when they had 2 outs. It was a lot of what we saw last year that they hit fine, 253 for the series, 739 OPS, a little better than league average, but they're just not scoring runs. Jose Altuve is in a deep funk.
Yep.
And anytime you see a 36-year-old player look as poorly as he does, it's not, when they're 25, they're a free swinger. When they're 36, you're wondering if you're starting to see the inevitable decline.
Some degradation. Yeah. I mean, of course, he and Paredes had the back-to-back home runs, which was really nice, but it didn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, they were behind big time.
9-3 game. Yep. Yainer Diaz came back, didn't make a whole lot of hay as far as the bat goes, only going 1 for 3.
He 1 for 3.
He drew a walk, scored that tying and go ahead rally run.
Right.
Made a killer throw to second base to take away a lead runner in the time that the game really needed it. Whatever. He didn't hit 2 homers in his return, but it doesn't really matter. I think in the long run, Yainer coming back really, I really think it provides a little more upside for this team than a lot of people think it does. Vasquez has shown that he can do the job, but he's also, I think, shown why a lot of teams really kind of hesitated on him as a starter or as a catcher that gets a lot of time. I think he looks just tired and worn out.
His numbers will tell you that too. I saw something the other day on the broadcast that over the last 6 weeks he's hitting 174.
Yeah.
This is this series. He was 1 for 6. He had one walk, and no extra base hits.
Yeah.
He's playing like a guy who's been asked to do more than he should be asked to do.
Yep. Another bright spot in this series for me, Reinel Delgado. Where did this
that
guy
was cool, wasn't it?
Where did this guy come from? So, I mean, second major league start, delivering a 2-run single there in the 8th to turn a 2-1 deficit into a 3-2 lead. He had only recorded his first MLB hit just 2 days later. So, I think it was just a fun story. It's good to see young guys come up and contribute. This is kind of one of those things that the Astros have always known is, get some young guys come up and at least contribute a little bit. So, he may only be enjoying a brief opportunity here. But I think he's earned a longer look. We'll see what kind of playing time he gets here over these next couple of series. And, waiting for some of these other guys to come in off of the IL.
Well, he's been around the minors for quite a while. He was drafted in the 6th round of the 2018 draft by the then Indians, then and still should be Indians. And I think the Astros got him from Tampa, right?
Yes.
And you worry, you throw a kind of a suspicious eye on somebody that the Rays get rid of because their talent identification and development is so good.
Yeah.
But so far, he's gotten a couple of hits in this series. He was 2 for 4, knocked in a couple of runs. You know, did what he was asked to do. He played fine in the field. No big hiccups. But he also is one of these players that the Astros are picking up that they're expecting to do more heavy lifting than they probably should be expected to do.
Agreed.
Cam, you say Cam's doing better, but I look at some numbers. Cam has virtually been hitting 220 over the last 2 weeks. His OPS is the same. He feels like he's getting better, but he's hitting about 223 right now, and a couple of weeks ago he was hitting about 218, and his OPS a couple of weeks ago was 670, and his OPS now is about 665 or somewhere in that order of magnitude. So he's a good enough outfielder, like that play that he made the other day against the Tigers when he hit Pena on that relay. Did you see Pena steal the relay from Jose?
Yes.
And then you and I could have thrown that. And I'm
threw him at home. Yeah.
Yeah. You and I, even at my advanced age, I could have thrown him out at home. He was out by. You could imagine. Yeah, can you imagine being a Tiger fan, watching that in the game, and the epithets that would be coming out after that?
Oh my gosh, that was.
Who the third base? You know who I think the third base coach is now?
No, I don't know. Who is it?
It's Pettis.
Is it Gary Pettis?
I'm pretty sure.
No way. I'm gonna have to look that up while we're here talking about.
I am
this
right now.
I guess that would make sense.
No, he's for the Giants. No, he's with the Giants. He's with the Giants, but
Joey Cora.
Well, let's just say it was Pettis, because that's the kind of thing Pettis would have done.
That send was that was a Gary Pettis send for sure. Oh man! Speaking of defense, my boy Jake Myers made that spectacular diving catch to Rob Torkelson. That could have been a game changer there.
You get so used to him doing it. You're like, yep, he's going to catch that ball.
Yep, he's going to get to it. He's going to catch that for sure. Well, so they didn't dominate Detroit, but they won. Did something more important. They did. It's where they are right now. They recovered from an ugly opening game. They found 2 different ways to win. We've got the length of the pitching. We've got guys showing up and contributing. I'm not going to say that it's completely stabilized. Over the last 25 games, they've shown up well. They've played a 97 win pace over these last 25 games. So the question is this the real team that's emerging, or just a strong month that hasn't really erased the hole yet? But the things that happened and changed during these last 25 games, I made a list here. Hader's returned. Altuve returned. Now Yiner's back. Now Hunter Brown is back. The bullpen was stabilized by Hader returning. Starting pitching has come a lot more competitive. You talked numbers about this just the other night. Occasional contributions outside of Yordan. You've had Christian Walker. You brought up Cam Smith. We've seen Bryce Matthews do some things. Here's one big one for me. This team has started winning more close games, Wally.
Yep.
Which was something that in the previous 25 games, or going back to the beginning of season, that was something that we were really noticing, is that this team could not win close games, and they could not get that score per game over that 3.3 runs a game mark outside of a few haymakers that they were throwing.
Yeah, they're playing more winning baseball. There for a while they were making stupid plays, maybe not making errors, but not making plays that they should have made. To amplify your point that you made a bit ago, since the Rockies series, when they were at their worst, starting with the Rocky series, the team ERA is just a touch over 4. Okay. The bullpen is at 3.25. And that bullpen was dreadful,
Gosh,
which
it
they've
was so
needed,
brutal.
which they've really needed because they're you know, they have not scored as many runs. They're let me see what they got. Their runs per season have dropped from, call it six, a little over 6 runs start at the Rocky series. Now they're at about 4.5, and it's been a steady drop. So you're looking at a runs per game probably in the 3.5 range without doing the numbers. So it's something they've had to do.
Yep.
So
looking at these past 25 games and thinking about the next 10 to 12, right? We've talked about it. They play 3 against Cleveland, 3 at Toronto, and 4 at Detroit. So that's 10 games to get from 35 and 41. They've got to go 8-2. I think that's a lot to ask. It's not impossible against those 3 teams there. That's one route to 500 before July 1st. The second route would be taking 12 games, so that would carry them through to June 30th with a 9-3 record. So that would have them winning the first 2 Minnesota games. So I don't know. The math's not complicated. It's execution, right? I mean, they need to either go on an 8-2 run or a 9-3 run. I see a path for this team to get back to that 500 mark, I guess, back to that 500 mark, to get to that 500 mark by the beginning of July. I mean, obviously you have to beat Cleveland at home, and you started with this a little bit earlier. That might be the struggle. The bigger struggle out of these next 10 games is the Guardians keep winning games consistently without really outscoring opponents. I mean, they're still in a negative run differential. It's a team that's still one of those teams that just they can't do that forever. It's one of those teams that really just baffles me.
Yeah, they're a team you look up every year and you say, "Wow, we think this team's going to fall off," and they still are. They still do okay.
Yeah.
When the Guardians
going into Toronto. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
you want to touch on
it's going to be. They've got the Guardians at home. They've got, as far as the pitching matchups go, Imai, one day he's good, one day he's not. Some of that is, he's not a rookie, but he's into a new situation.
Yep.
Arrighetti and Tung, you got to think that you've heard some talk about this, that they may be piggyback Tung and Burrows. Now that means we may have to score 11 runs.
Yeah, and blue ball or blue ball. I've heard a little bit of talk about that. Stretch blue ball.
Going to Toronto, you've got Brown against TBD, but then you got Lambert and Savage again, and then Imai against Gausman.
Mm-hmm.
You got your work cut out for you there. Then you've got, then they're showing, and Detroit, they're showing Burrows and Troy Melton. Melton got scratched from the last start, so it must not have been too bad. Arrighetti and Verlander. We'll see what Verlander has in the tank, and then Tung and Valdez. Now, Valdez has come out, since we're talking about the Tigers. Won't need to talk about it too long. I thought it would have been great if Cesar Salazar would have thrown out the first ball.
Let him drive up from Sugar Land and throw out the first ball. That would have been great. And
what would have been great is if he would have just turned and buzzed Valdez. But man, Valdez was good the other night.
He was typical Fromber, right? Allowing a little bit of traffic sometimes, ground ball contact, doing damage control, and comes out with a 6-inning game, 6 hits, 1 unearned run. I mean, it was typical Fromber stuff.
That two-seamer was moving, and the curveball was dipping, and he was tunneling him, and it's like, I say, wow, I'm glad I wasn't trying to hit against that. He was really, really good.
Yeah, he was
But
fine with that.
but we won, so who cares? And he's still
That's
a
right.
dog with fleas.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, going back into Detroit, I'm not so going into Detroit. I'm not so worried about it. I mean, we've seen what they're capable of in one game, and that's not a typical game for them either. So they would need to win, win three or four. Yeah, and they got to win three series in a row here. I mean, really, that's all they really need to do. And like you said, that's gonna make up a game a week, or game one and a half, I guess, technically. And so I think that's gonna be the key here, really.
You know, I'm what I'm looking at is we got a couple of weeks out, but Tampa comes into town. I mean, you and I talked about contenders and pretenders, and we called Tampa a pretender.
Hmm.
I mean, they always seem to play good ball, but they were playing so far over their heads,
Yep.
and they've come back down to earth. The Dodgers just swept them. That's a Fourth of July series. You wonder if Tampa Bay comes in, if they're still down, they're still on the skids, if there's some panic in Tampa Bay at that time.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I
You've
think
got
so.
Minnesota coming in after we go to Detroit. If you had, I say we take 2 out of 3 from Cleveland. I think that road trip to Toronto and Detroit is going to be tough.
Yeah.
You can come out of that with a split. Okay, so that's call it 5 and 4 out of those. Take 2 out of 3 from Minnesota, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Sweep them.
Hmm.
If you're lucky to get it 8-4, and then coming from Tampa Bay, 2 out of 3, you go 10-5.
Yep.
You do that. If you do that, that's your path to 500. 500 by it'll be July 5th, but call it July 4th.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, if you start looking at a potential run like this, and the Astros getting back to 500, I think it starts to solidify all of the question marks around what this team may do at the trade deadline.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be really, really interesting in that there's part of me that says the Astros need to look in the mirror and understand that you know if they push too hard in this year, they run the risk of what happens to so many teams that are marginal playoff contenders, that they may make the playoffs, get bounced in the first round, and cut their program back 3 years.
Yeah.
Especially if they go buying and they have to give players up. You look at some of the guys they've got. You're starting to see some pitchers at Double-A that they're starting to talk about, like the Ethan Peckos of the world. They're talking about what was the kid? Schiavone, Joseph
Yep.
Schiavone, who's the catcher, who looks like he's passed up Yannick as the top catcher. Xavier Nayans
The
down
next guy up.
Xavier Nayans and Kevin Alvarez down at Low-A. They've got a long way to go. But you're talking about guys that are 18 years old down in Fayetteville who are about 3 years under the average age of their competition. And they're not league leaders, but they're certainly holding their own. So
Yep.
for the first time in several years, it looks like there's some bright spots on the farm, which would lead Crane to hopefully, if they think that these guys on the farm are good, that Dana's bought himself another year.
It's possible. Yep. It's possible. All right. Man, I'm out of notes. I think we pulled it off here.
They're doing 30 minutes. Let's
That's a nice one. That's a nice
just
one.
real quickly, when I just kind of some stories around the league.
Yeah.
The Braves continue to do what the Braves have done. The Phillies had made a run and they seem to have leveled off. One team to look at is the Nationals. If they big question with the Nationals. They're 39-36. They score more runs than anybody in the league in baseball, and they can hit.
Mm-hmm.
Question is, will they go out and get any pitching, or will they do as so many people are saying, don't push all in. If you're lucky, you make the playoffs and get some experience with the guys you have this year. Take it as far as you can go, and then try to buy pitching in the off season. The
Yep.
Brewers continue to do what the Brewers are going to do. They still don't hit a lot of home runs. That kills them in the playoffs. Cardinals are still, to me, the biggest surprise of anybody in the league. I mean, they're 7 games over 500, and they're at about close to a 90 win pace.
Yeah.
It's like who would have thought that? And the Reds,
Yeah.
the Reds are 3 games under 500 with a negative 52 run differential.
That's crazy. Yeah,
The rest
that's
of the
crazy.
West, the West is
3 out of the wild card.
Yeah, NL West is breaking down about as we thought it would be. The Dodgers and the four Dwarfs.
Yeah.
And Manny Machado's still hitting about 170.
He's not. He's not. Yeah, it's insane.
And the Yankees are in the American League. The Yankees are still doing what we thought they would do. The Rays are holding back. Question I have for you is the Blue Jays were back in the same spot that the Astros, about where the Astros were, and they're a game under 500. Do the Blue Jays go to the whip, or what do they have? You think they've got anything?
Well, I mean, I've kind of looked around, and I actually have it here in my notes. Is watch Vladdy. Vladdy's he's heating up. He homered for the first time since May. He's only had 4 home runs entering this weekend. Still batting at 280. But I think that for Toronto, if Vladdy is catching on and starting to hit again and do his thing, not just from an average standpoint, but from a power standpoint, that could change the game for Toronto. I think for sure. I mean, not that every team,
they didn't,
not like a team like that is a one man show, but the Astros have rode Jordan's back for a while now.
Yeah, but the Blue Jays didn't sign Guerrero to a $500 million deal to hit 280 with a 739 OPS.
That's absolutely right.
That's a barely above average player, especially with no pop. The one thing with the Blue Jays too is you've got Springer. He had his one supernova year last year that so many veteran players have, is that last really good year, and he's back to hitting 218 with a 688 OPS and a negative 0.1 WAR. Who's actually having a surprisingly good year is Jesus Sanchez. We couldn't get rid of that dog fast enough.
I saw somebody post some stats on that. It was pretty interesting to see the guy. He's doing well. Yeah, maybe
287 with a 785 OPS.
Yeah.
7 home runs, 28. But the thing about the Blue Jays, they're not. It just doesn't feel like they're scoring a ton of runs.
No. I mean, they're not. They're a negative 13 run differential, so not ridiculous. Not like we're not where Houston
they're
is at
23rd in
but
baseball, and they're 23rd in baseball in runs scored. Okay.
Yep.
Compare that to an average. To their average, they're kind of what the Astros were last year. They're 9th in batting average, 23rd in runs scored. So that's one you want to dig in under the numbers and see why. Probably not hitting with runners in scoring position. They're no power.
Yep.
They're 23rd in runs, 22nd in OPS. That's if they're gonna compete, that's got to happen. Last little bit, so we don't ramble too long. Is that how much longer do the White Sox keep it up? They've been playing really well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Guardians are only a half a game back, or are they tied right now?
They're percentage points behind, but
White Sox
have won 6 of the last 10. Guardians
Yep.
4 of the last 10.
4 of the last 10.
And I keep on waiting for the Royals to drop the hammer on Quartero.
You say it every week. We're going to find out soon.
I mean, they.
Hey, I mean,
maybe
the,
that's not their.
the Twins could make a run at that division. They've won 4 in a row here, and they're only 4.5 games back.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's an odd division. Well, then the same thing with the Astros. The West. I mean, you only got one team that's got a positive run differential. So,
yeah,
it's a wacky year. That's
it
all
is
I got.
A really weird year with the Yankees and the Dodgers just crushing everybody right now.
Yeah, I think if it goes back to the World Series, the Yankees will take the Dodgers. The Yankees.
As of right now, I could see that if Judge gets back,
they've got some really
he's
good
doing
pitching.
well and he's healthy. I can see that.
They've got
I
some
can
good
see that
pitching.
happening. Yep, I can see that happening. All right, guys. Well, the Astros might not be fixed, but this last series gave us the clearest picture yet of what a potential turnaround looks like. Let's go. Let's go see what they got in them. Man, headed out on the road trip. For my man Wally, I'm Ryan. Welcome to thanks for watching another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. Let's go Stros.
Go Stros.